You may wish to adjust the dial. You are currently tuned into the wrong station. Following Season 3 of Wrong Station, we received numerous complaints that the content was too disturbing, too twisted, and too, well, wrong for it to be suitable for any audience. We take complaints like this very seriously. However, months of research have shown us that our stories were perfect, and that it was, in fact, the audience who was flawed. Sorry you had to find out this way. So rather than change the content, we've decided to change you. Yes, you, dear listener. Starting a few moments from now, we will be modifying your conscious and unconscious mind to shape them into better conduits for our show. The process is simple. We will tell you a series of things scientifically demonstrated to be wrong, and, as you listen, the underlying structure of your brain will collapse and malform. By the end of this episode, your mental space will have been refurbished in a way that permanently improves your wrong station listening experience. If this sounds painful, don't worry. Many of the mice we tested this on survived, and those that died seemed quite happy when the end came. Now, all you must do is close your eyes, relax your mind, and please, consider this. Stage 1. Please consider this. A Rubik's Cube is placed in a chicken's nest and the chicken is placed on top of it. After a week and a half, you remove the Rubik's Cube. It is now solved. Please consider this. From a young age, you are given a monkey to raise as a fighting monkey. At the age of 18, in an unspecified arena, you will have to fight this monkey to the death. You have named this monkey. The monkey's name is Bill. Please consider this. Deep in an underground facility, a lab technician pushes a cart filled with grass to the containment unit. He swipes his 3 key cards to pass through the 3 magnet lock doors and enters it, exclaiming, "Jeremy, it's feeding time. It's your favorite." Huddling in the corner of the unit, a human-shaped mound of butter rises to its feet and excitedly stumbles towards the cart. Lacking in motor skills, it falls several times, leaving buttery pools on the floor each time it does. Reaching the cart, it begins shoving tufts of grass into its butterman mouth. The technician thinks he can make out a low, quiet, but satisfied moan that would go something like, "Ooh." Ready for market soon, they mutter under their breath. Please consider this. A man is found dead in his bed, frozen entirely from the neck up. After weeks of laborious study, scientists determine that he has found the coolest side of the pillow. Please consider this. While walking through the desert, you come across a tortoise lying on its back. You reach to turn the tortoise over, but black, segmented legs burst from its shell, and it scuttles away. What on earth? Please consider this. Under laboratory conditions, sodium is combined with chloride to produce common table salt. One time, instead of common table salt, the bloody lower half of a human face is produced. You feel an overwhelming urge to make kisses to this face. Please consider this. A hiss is still a hiss. Sam's piano begins to vomit up ream upon ream of live, angry snakes. Rick's bar fills up, pythons and vipers stream out into the streets of Casablanca, and then out of the slot of your near-antique VHS player. This is not how movie night was intended to unfold. Please consider this. Acid-wash jeans. What if they forgot to rinse away the acid before they sold the jeans? Your neighbor doesn't have to consider. They're currently awaiting the payout from a class-action lawsuit. Please consider this. The milk in your fridge keeps going off as soon as you buy it. Late one night, you walk into your kitchen and find a man, a stranger, spitting into the carton. Panicked, he takes flight. After that, the milk is fine. Stage 2. Please consider this. You spent your childhood on a small foie gras farm in the countryside, learning the gentle art of gavage, the force-feeding of ducks. One day, government agents arrive outside your home and tell you that you've been called up to the big leagues. They take you to an underground facility where a man is tied to a frame with a metal tube in his mouth. The government agent puts a hand on your shoulder, squeezing painfully as he stares you down with wild eyes. He tells you that it's a matter of national security for you to, quote, make this man as big as possible. You agree to do it. You would do anything for Queen and country. Please consider this. The first astronaut on a new world finds a copy of a pornographic magazine from the 1970s. It is the first human being they have seen in 7 years of travel. They begin to weep. Please consider this. As the nursing home staff box up all of one old woman's effects, they find that each and every one of her books has been hollowed out and contains a loaded handgun. Please consider this. A fisherman pulls a huge catch of bluefin tuna, but when he slices one of the fish open, he finds that there's a folded piece of paper in its gut. He tries another, and another. All of them. Unfolding the small paper notes, he finds that each one of them reads, microplastics. Please consider this. You discover a tree that isn't in your field guide to local flora. There's no entry for ash-white leaves, or crimson thorns the length of a man's hand, or small black fruits that taste of a certain awful night from your childhood. Please consider this. You drop your mug of morning coffee. Although the ceramic breaks, the coffee stands freely in a perfect cylinder until you pull it apart with your fingers and eat it like a muffin. Please consider this. An attic is full of bats. 1 week later, it contains just one enormous bat, flying in slow circles. Please consider this. You crack open a can of soda and take a swig. Something that is too solid and too fleshy to be soda enters your mouth. It struggles. You feel limbs scrabbling at the inside of your cheeks and the squeal of nails on your tooth enamel. You spit out the thing that is not soda, and it disappears into the shadows. Later, a test reveals that the liquid inside the can is amniotic fluid. Please consider this. It's time to clean the bathroom. You get on your hands and knees to clean the grout with a toothbrush. You brush as hard as you can, certain that this time it will be fully clean. But as you do, dark red blood begins to spurt from the grout. Undeterred, you keep scrubbing. The bathroom floor bleeds for over an hour before it finally stops. You finish cleaning. 2 weeks later, you return home to find your landlord holding a sparsely attended memorial service on the front lawn. Next to him is a beautiful wreath of lilies surrounding a large photo of the bathroom. Your landlord glares at you. Ah, please consider this. A glassworker's studio lies in ruins, with the exception of one perfect window. Local legend says the glazier crafted that window over the course of a lifetime, that it was blown from the sand of 1,000 hourglasses. They say he did this so that he could look through the window and gaze fondly upon the past. But the sand in an hourglass never rises. It only falls. And when you stare through the glass, you see only the terrible future. Please. Oh my. Please do excuse me for one moment. How do they get out? Now, where was I? Stage 3. Please consider this. You develop a canker sore in your lower lip. Every day it gets deeper until you can reach 2 fingers into it up to the 3rd knuckle. Something. You become convinced that something is living in there. Please consider this. You work in an office building occupied by a massive company. One day, an employee you've never met comes to your desk and hands you a clear glass jar with holes punched in the lid. He tells you that the boss needs this dealt with by the end of the week, and then shuffles off. Only after he's gone do you realize that the jar contains a tiny, living man. You attempt to get more information about exactly what you are supposed to do with the jar and the man, but you cannot figure out who the employee was or which boss he was referring to. You try communicating with the tiny man, but the tiny man does not respond. In fact, he looks bored. Attempts at inquiry lead to an endless loop of unanswered phone calls and out-of-office email auto-replies. You place the jar on your in-tray where it sits for several days. On Friday, before leaving the office, you screw your eyes shut and place a ream of high-weight, glossy paper on top of the jar, covering the air holes completely. When you come back to work on Monday, you discover that you've been promoted. The jar is gone. Please consider this. You finally remove the dusty lid of that ancient filing box under the stairs to see what it contains. Turns out, it's blood. Gallon upon sloshing gallon of bright, fresh blood. Oh, please consider this. A rare, primitive shark is dredged from the ocean floor. After the contents of its stomach are inventoried, biologists find it contains, among other things, a soda can, part of a car tire, and your wife's hand, still wearing your wedding ring. Your wife died in an automobile accident in Weyburn, Saskatchewan in 2006. You still have both of her hands, lacquered on the mantelpiece. Please consider this. Your doctor hands you a prescription. You cannot make out what it says. The pharmacist who fills the order hands you a pill bottle filled with living, iridescent beetles to be taken every 8 hours. Their shells crackle between your teeth. Your mouth fills with the taste of lemon. Please consider this. A group of school children corners you at the zoo, demanding to know what the best animal is. You answer that there's no such thing as one best animal, and this response sends them into a rage. As a group, they gather around the smallest boy and break his arm, before turning back to you and posing the question again. Panicked, you respond that a dog is the best animal. This answer drives them to a further pitch of anger, and you're forced to watch as the arms of 3 more children are snapped like screaming matchsticks. This process repeats itself for half an hour until you fall to your knees, weeping and admitting that it is a tiger. A tiger is the best animal. A silence falls. When you look back up, the children have dispersed. Please consider this. You brush your carpet with a stiff comb to remove the shed dog fur. Instead, what comes out wrapped around the tines of the comb are what appear to be extremely thin, crinkled ribbons that smell of acetate. You dig out your childhood microscope. Under the powerful lens, you discover that they aren't ribbons, but rather old celluloid film stock. The film quickly becomes overexposed by the backlight of the microscope, but not before you see one frame. It depicts your own face, smiling, even though you are missing both of your eyes. And now, if you would please consider this. You awake one morning to find that your phone has extended bright tendrils into the vein of your wrist. When you attempt to remove them, the phone becomes agitated and injects you with a sedative. You awake to find that your phone has extended bright tendrils into the vein of your wrist. When you attempt to remove them, the phone becomes agitated and injects you with a sedative. You awake, you awake, you awake, you And there you have it. See? We told you the procedure was painless. Your mind might feel the same right now, but for the rest of your life, there will be moments where you will react to ordinary situations in ways that surprise and disturb you. At work, you might see dark shadows moving in the thin reflection of a staple. During dinner, a simple request to pass the salt might elicit feelings of dread so deep that you could drown in them. In the arms of a lover, you may find their familiar scent replaced by that of a childhood pet or freshly hewn bone. Do not fear, do not despair, because these recordings, both past and future, will be there for you through all of it. We will be there. Please, consider this. You are ours, and we are yours. Forever. You have been tuned to the wrong station, and you can never adjust the dial.